Hi, I'm Stefan Wagner, Professor for Empirical Software Engineering at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. This is our journal first track talk of our paper at TOSEM, Status Quo in Requirements Engineering, a Theory and a Globalist Family of Surveys. And our starting point for this whole project was that we were looking at requirements engineering research, and we saw that there are mostly isolated investigations of methods there. And especially that research is not always driven by problems from industry. And so we set out to get an empirical understanding of the state of the practice and of problems in requirements engineering. And we think this is necessary for relevant research. So the core ideas in the design of the study that we then set up is that we've described it in these 5 research questions. How are requirements elicited and documented? How are requirements changed and aligned with tests? Why and how is requirements engineering improved? Is there a requirements engineering standard and how it is applied, and what contemporary problems exist in requirements engineering and how do they manifest themselves? The last question is something that's out of scope of this video because there's a separate paper on this. It was clear from the beginning that this is not something we could do only in Germany and only once and then we have a good answer, but we set out from the beginning that we want to do this regularly every other year and strive at least to go worldwide. And in this paper, we reported on the second run of this survey. These are the countries that participated initially. We don't have data from all of them, but we had 10 countries and 228 different companies participating in our second run that was open 2014 and 15. And it was important for us that we not only have a survey and some empirical data, but to relate this and aggregate this into a theory. And we used the approach by Soyberg et al. To describe it graphically in a kind of UML notation. So we have a set of technologies like requirements elicitation techniques, activities like requirements elicitation, and actors that participate like requirements engineers. And then we have propositions describing relationships, for example, between technologies and activities. This is then a set of propositions in this respect. These are the activities for requirements elicitation from the SWEBOC, and we had corresponding items in the questionnaire. So we refrained from using hypothesis testing because we don't have a clear understanding how representative our sample is and what the theoretical distributions in our populations are. So we calculated 95% confidence intervals using bootstrapping to reduce that problem. So we want to understand if things are commonly used, and commonly used we define then that our confidence interval is above 20%. So if we are 95% confident that more than 20% of our population would give a corresponding answer, we accepted it and accepted the corresponding proposition. So how's the sample? As I said, we had 228 companies from a wide range of domains, as you see here. We had small, medium, and large enterprises, a little bit of an emphasis on large enterprises, which is, of course, probably not very representative, but it's usually where we had more contacts. And we had a mix of agile, plan-driven, or mixed process models with an emphasis on agile development, which might actually be representative. Some results, of course, I cannot show you a lot of results here, but if you go back to our propositions that we just saw, we only had this one that was supported already in the last run. The other ones were new. This is what we found. You see here the percentage of people giving the corresponding answer. Of course, they could check several of them because you can use, of course, different elicitation techniques to elicit requirements. And you also see the confidence interval here depicted as well. And we do see that all of the confidence intervals are above 20%. So we can accept all our propositions. For the theory, we then added explanations why we think the propositions might hold. This is based on other study results that relate to this, answers to open questions we also had in the survey, and our own reasoning where we think this might be useful. Another example, we asked for the first time how requirements are documented, so it was not in the first run. And I want to highlight some. I think the most obvious is that we included free-form textual requirements lists, is something we would expect in practice to be used a lot. Other things that we expected were, for example, data models that are documented semi-formally in something like UML or entity relationship diagrams. And from research, we also expected that goal models are usually documented semi-formally or formally. And these are the results. It's a bit small probably to read, so I zoom in and we see that free-form textual structured requirements lists are actually on the top. So 42% said they use this as a documentation. We also see that semi-formal, for example, UML data models are very commonly used. More to our surprise, semi-formal and formal goal models were actually at the end of our list. So they are rarely used. They are not a common occurrence in practice. This, of course, led to several changes in our propositions. So, for example, for the next round, we propose that goal models are not documented semi-formally or formally. And again, we added explanations for this. To sum up, we want to do, of course, more empirical research to better understand where the problems and the results come from by further surveys. That we have a third and fourth run that we work on, but also use other techniques like interviews and observations to better understand aspects that we cannot understand by surveys. We collaborate with IREP to include our findings in their trainings and certifications. For the third one, we right now are still in analyzing the data and in preparing publications. So look out for further results from this project and this endeavor. And I hope I could convince you that an empirical understanding of the state of the practice is necessary and important for RE research to make it relevant and make it comparable. I want to end with a big thanks to the whole NAPHIRE team. There's a big group of people contributing to this research. And I want to especially mention the core team, Daniel Mendes, Michael Felderer and Markus Kalinowski's. Thanks. This has been a great research endeavor.